What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man, and super happy to be back for another episode. I appreciate you guys. Again, 750 podcast downloads since we started. Listen, it's not a million, but I think you got to celebrate the small victories. You know what I mean? Celebrate the small victories. And I don't want to say they're small because it's 750 of you or 750 podcast downloads from, however you divide that by however many episodes there are, and that's how many of you. So, do the math. But either way, it's a great testament to that there's an opportunity for the community and the stuff that we're discussing and the perspective. And I can't wait to get more visitors on the show, special guests. I want to say homies, actually. Okay, I can't wait to bring on more homies on the show and get a chance to share with you their knowledge and even talk some perspective on the Nothing Changes and see how. Like, I really want to be able to find parallels between what people do, their aha moments, their tough times, and the things that they've done or changed based on, however they did it, and then see how I can parallel that to the influence, the thought, the emotion, the action, the decision, the outcome, structure of Nothing Changes until you do, or the concept, right, of that's really just the steps or the journey moving forward in terms of decision making, and then ultimately an outcome over a long period of time, which is your life. Okay, so I'm super excited for that. So thank you guys again. Hopefully you're having a great day. And if you're not, remember, it's just changing the thoughts. And this is what I want to get into today. Like, the prompt would be, I would say the prompt to think about, or the question to think about when you're in any situation that you're beginning to feel like emotionally distraught, upset, whatever it is. It's like, okay, what is my emotion? Like, hold on one second. What am I feeling and why? And if we can do that while we're in that situation, or acting as we're in that situation, because that's all we do is we just act anyway based on influence, thought, emotion, action, influence and thought, right? And thought. So again, the holidays are coming up, and every year it seems to be a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Just because it's like, okay, what's the budget? Why don't we have that budget? How come we have to wait? And now not everyone's getting what they want in terms, and I get it, right? For me, to a certain extent, it's like, I think I see, I don't want to say I see past gift giving. I appreciate gift giving. I feel like there's got to be, I don't know. For me, I just feel like if it's necessary, it's the perfect gift, right? And if it's not necessary, you can fucking go without it. You know what I mean? You can go without it and figure it out. Like, I'd rather give you something that is useful, or, whatever. So that's my thought. And then again, the level of like spending and stuff like that. So it's always that. It's always, last year was great. This year's like not so bad, but still like, and then 2-3 years ago, I was like, what the fuck are we going to do for Christmas? So it's these types of things, right? But it's a similar situation. So we talk about this, like cyclical situations that come back, and then you decide to do something, and then you get this similar outcome, and you get the same or similar feeling, right? That feeling that you want to feel. And so that exactly happened this morning, and it was just like, we're here again talking about the same fucking shit, which is basically the budget and Christmas and everybody, et cetera, et cetera. But so the same emotions came up, the same back and forth between Patty and I, the same increase of tone, all of that. That was just part of it, right? And then years ago, it would have gone way longer. It would have ruined the whole day. And today, look at me, like I'm sitting here drinking my water with pink sea salt and cream of tartar for potassium. Thanks, Dr. Lisa McGarry. She's gonna be on the show coming up actually in a little bit, but on the next one or the one before, it doesn't matter. Whatever. Either way, I'm not fucking upset for the rest of the day, the whole day. Like, and here's how we got to like where I'm at. There was a moment where it's like, okay, let's just. Like, it was back and forth, and then it was like Patty left. She went back on the computer. I was like, all right, let's do something, right? We need to figure out. It's not like we can't move this forward, but maybe it was just like a pause. And I was like, dude, I still haven't done my breath work, right? Because it's breath work, mobility, a little bit of trading, ice bath, and then like lunch, bike ride, get to work, right? Start editing, start paying the bills with the skills that I've acquired, and so that's how I got there. Okay. I was like, I just know I need to do the breath work. And it's like, I was like, you know what? I need to do breath work before I go fucking crazy. And so it took me a little bit while I was outside. I still had the same feeling of the recent past, the recent situation of just like back and forth, and then the thought of like, the budget, damn, we should have X, Y, Z, we should have done more, we should have saved more, because it would have been great to have more budget, but now we got to pivot, and now this is the budget, and then, but Patty had an expectation, and then I was like, yeah, but we got to like be able to pivot, and the da-da-da, right? So like that feeling of just anxiety, I don't like the word anxiety, it's just a personal preference, right? But I think it's an easy way to identify what that feeling is, or even just like the emotional hypersensitivity of like your emotions being filtered all at one time. And that's why it's just easier to say anxiety, because it's one word. We keep it simple, right? If you haven't listened to that podcast, it's only 7 minutes. It's on there. Okay. So that happened. And then I'm still feeling this outside. However, I just continue to like work and just reflect on it, and reflecting again is I just asking myself prompts and these questions of like, all right, like how do we go about problem solution to this situation, right? To the situation that we have going. And so really it was just like, okay, well, let's just look at the number, right? Like it started from like, still slowly and doing breath work. And I'm like, let me try to get this breath work. It's like, okay, it's nice out. Like in between all these other thoughts that are happening, I'm like, yeah. And then just replaying what happened, replaying what's going on at the same time, asking myself like, okay, how do we figure this out? What's the best way to approach this situation? And literally for, with anything, especially just look at the numbers or look at the logic reasoning behind that you can't really argue against. So the thought was like, all right, well, let's go figure out our numbers. Let's see exactly where we are right now and exactly what the budget is. And let's see if it's doable or feasible, right? In terms of Christmas, save Christmas, the Wolfpack save Christmas, because they sat down, they were logical, did some breath work, and then looked at the numbers. So again, a bunch of breath work, some stretching, working on my hip. It was a long soccer season. We lost at the championship game, which I'll have to talk about that. That'll be a whole different episode, but we lost. Unfortunately, it was a great game. Wait till you hear how we lost, though. Okay, so see, now my train of thought, like I'm starting to think about it. But back to what I was saying, the breath work. And then I jumped in and then I did the ice bath. And the ice bath, again, just a good moment to physically get your body tuned in or like hack your system, right? It's like, okay, now you got to worry about just not being cold. And that's it. So I just changed all these thoughts. I changed my feelings and then came in and then we did the numbers. We both sat down, we looked at it. And then we understood what we could and couldn't do. And then it so happened that we were also able to get tickets to go back to Jersey and visit my family. So it was like a nice little up surprise, right? Which is great. So I want to thank you and I want to thank everybody else and our clients because they help us get to that level because of the service we do and what they provide for us. So if you're one of our clients, thanks for working with us. So what else? Let's see. Okay. And then the big picture here was I was like, man, because I was conscious of like not wanting to feel that way and trying to change. Like I was like, okay, like what do I talk about the promptcast? Like what do we do is prompts. So I was like, what are my prompts right now that I can start thinking about so I can start changing this feeling? And then that's what really led me to like the reaffirmation of how important or how impactful feelings are to your emotions, right? Like, or your thoughts, your thoughts, how impactful your thoughts are to your emotion, right? So what am I thinking about? Like, and that was a question I asked myself. It's like, what am I thinking about? And I'm thinking about all these things that I can't, or potentially think I can't do because of like the pivot. And that on top of the communication and the level of communication. And another important thing is how you communicate to someone else, the tone that you can, and the frequency that you communicate to somebody else, all of that. And just like, just being the acting of yourself in that situation. So understanding this is where change happens consciously, instead of unconsciously. Which is like, I burned the stove. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. That's more unconscious than conscious, or somewhat can say conscious as well, because you're conscious enough to know that you're not going to do that again. But I feel like if it takes you a while, to like, I got to change, and you fucking keep doing it, and you get the same fucking thing. It's like you're not you're missing a level of awareness and consciousness in that fucking situation to then be aware enough to then change the action, which again, it's the thought that you're thinking about. So going back to the example, I just started thinking about something different, or how I was thinking about it. So change the thought completely, like, oh, look, and I tried this. I said, look at the tree. It's nice. The color is green. Focus on the color is green. And then that's what I'm thinking about. So it changes like my biofrequency of emotion, right? But in the back of my mind, it's still rolling. So I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. I could have maybe tried it a couple times and stick to it, but I've really just continued working on, okay, how do we solve this situation? And so the importance of what you're thinking, and then also how you're thinking. How are you thinking about the situation, right? Instead of looking at it from, like, oh, man, we don't have enough. It's like, okay, what can we afford, and what is enough? In terms of like, wow, that's pretty cool. And we can also do this. Everybody won, right? So everybody wins scenario. So now it happened that way because of the numbers and things that are there, and potentially a similar situation or a different situation. Maybe there isn't that. And you just have to, again, figure out a way to think about it, how to think about it, or how you're thinking about the situation. Even if it's not so great, maybe it's like, what can you get from that? Like, or what's another thought? So this came from, it didn't just come from, but I listened to this as well from Alex Hormozy, and then the one that I referenced, I think his name was Todd. I'm going to still look him up. But either way, it was just like, his example was like, you may feel like a failure because your business didn't launch, or you didn't make all these sales, but it's like, are you waking up and taking a shot, right? Like, are you waking up and drinking? Are you waking up and doing drugs? Like, if you didn't, and you did that repetitively, so you're actually doing something good, right? So it's how we think of like this situation, or what we think of, can then start helping you change the emotional side, which then definitely helps drive, or is a huge, just as important. So I feel influence, thoughts, and emotions are equally as important in terms of how you decide to do something, right? So it's that section of, what am I thinking about? And how do I start thinking about something else, or think of it in a different way? How do you think about it to start helping you move away from that, like, emotional, fuck kind of situation? Yeah, hope that makes sense. So that was the aha moment. And then I was then Patty and I went for a bike ride, which was great. We went for a 4-mile bike ride, which is amazing. And then we came back, and then we just talked about, had a conversation about like, okay, like, hey, these are things that we need to reinforce in order next year this doesn't happen again, and we don't, whatever it is, we'll be ready for it, and we don't have to feel this way ever again, right? So that's, again, change a year away. But again, we have to do all these little things consistently in terms of like, okay, we need to market more, we need to increase this, we need to make more in terms of what we're providing, selling, et cetera, for our services or our skill that we learned. And then we have to save more. We have to be a little more budget conscious, so that way December, November comes, it's like you don't even worry about it. And I think that's the same thing for anybody in whatever zero or tax income you're in. It's the same fucking thing. It's like, millions of dollars, January, December, you could be facing this thing. It's like, oh man, how the hell did we spend $500,000 this month? Or something, right? Something along those lines. But it's like, it's all relative, and it's all perspective. But I think at the end of the day, those are real conversations and real situations that no matter what level of income or what level of tax bracket you're probably going through, and your mind's probably, trying to fucking figure shit out and things like that. Or any other situation, fill in the same thing, influence thought. What are you thinking? How are you thinking about it? And then can you change that for a different, emotional action? Bam, bam, boom. That's it. And that's how I'm feeling. And I hope it helps you or anybody else that please, what? I'm not even going to say please, okay? I'm not even going to say, no, I have to, see, I don't have to say please, but it's just in my nature to say please. Will you please share one of your favorites episodes? We really want to grow the channel or the podcast, the community. And I would thank you guys again for listening. Keep crushing it. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. See you on the next one. Peace.